if the value is set, okay, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for characters where this attribute is set. Okay, so if I'm looking for foreground color, this would be colored characters. If I'm looking at stroke width, it would be outlined characters. So if the value is set, then I'm going to take the characters and append onto it the text to analyze, attributed string for range, that range I just got back. Everyone make sense there? So I just collected those characters that matched that attribute. And I also want to say, I could say index plus plus and just go to the next index, but I actually know that this range of character ends at range.location plus range.length, right? So there's no need to check. I already grabbed this range, so I need to now jump to the end of this range. If the attribute is not set on this character, then I do need to move to the next thing, okay, to the next character, because I'm in this while loop right here. I need to go round and round. Okay, so that's it. Hopefully you all understand this code. If you don't, you definitely want to offline make sure you understand how this works so that you understand mutable strings, or attributed strings. Okay, so now notice that I'm returning a non-mutable attributed string here, and this is clearly a mutable attributed string, and that's perfectly fine. What that says is whoever's calling this shouldn't rely on this being mutable. They should assume it's not mutable. And so update UI is going to call this, and it should be sure not to try and change these characters. And it won't be allowed to either without doing some sort of casting, because the compiler is not going to let you assign this to a mutable string. I'm going to move this up here like this. And so let's go ahead and use this. This might seem like a really long line of code, but it's pretty straightforward. So we need to have some outlets that point to these things, right? These little guys right here, so let's do that. Let's see, oops. Okay, so here's an example of exactly what I was talking about. I want to create an outlet here, and what's going on? How come I can't create this outlet? Okay, this is on automatic. What's going on here? Well, the answer is this is still UI view controller. So I need to go over here, go to here, and instead of having UI view controller here, I need text stats view controller. Okay, now look what happened. It automatically updated this. Okay, the automatic did its automatic job. Okay, so now I can control drag from here to here. We'll call this colorful characters label. And then I'll also drag from here to here, and we'll call this outlined characters label. Okay? Everyone see that? All right, so all we have left to do here is implement our update UI to make these two labels here properly display the length of the characters that we calculated with this characters with attribute down here. So let's make a lot more space. Let's go over here, just showing our view controller. And in self-update UI, all we really need to do is get the characters with the given attribute, whether it be color or the outline, and count how many characters in there. So let's do self.characters with attribute first, and let's do the color ones first, which the attribute there it would be the foreground color attribute name. So now we've got these characters. And let's see, now that we have them, we can count them. So let's do that by sending length of the string. So now we know how many characters there are here. So now we can update that field, which is our self.colorful characters label text. And we'll do that by saying ns string with format, %d, colorful characters, and the argument is this thing we just calculated right here. Okay, so we got that, and let's do the exact same thing here with the outlined characters, and these are outlined characters, and this is the ns stroke width attribute name. Okay, so we've went and found the characters that have the attribute, found out how many there are, and then we created a string with format that displayed that into the label. Okay, this is not 100% correct, because what if the color set on something is black? It's not a very colorful character. Or what if the stroke width is set, but it's set to 0? So this is not a great implementation, but it's simple. It gives you the idea. Now, one thing I like to do when I build a new MVC sometimes is test it. Okay? So I'm going to test this by adding a little viewDidLoad. Okay? So here's viewDidLoad. And what I'm going to do is self.textAnalyze equals ns attributed string alloc init with string test attributes. And I'm going to put some test attributes in here, like ns foreground color, green. And let's also put ns stroke width, colon, -3 or something like that. Right? So I have this. So now when this MVC appears, its viewDidLoad is going to set its own model, which is kind of a good testing thing. So let's go back and do that. And how would we do that test? So we got our storyboard here. What if we just pick this guy up and put it over here? Now when I run this app, it's going to go straight to this MVC and just bypass. This is not even going to be used right now because I'm just going to test this guy. So let's try that. See if I forgot anything. Oh, simulator. I'll do this on the, that finish it there. Let's go put this on the device. Okay. Okay, so the word test has 4 characters in it. So hopefully this is going to come up and say 4 colorful characters and 4 outline characters. So it's working. And I could go delete one of those attributes and make sure it says 0. I could change the word to be longer than test to make sure it says more than 4. You see what I mean? See how I can kind of test this MVC to make sure it's working? So we're going to take our word for it, though. That's enough testing and that it's working. So I'm going to get rid of viewDidLoad. This is something you might put this in some sort of if-def testing or something like that. You know how to do all that. So you could do that as well. But I'm just going to delete viewDidLoad. But I have a really nice working MVC right here that tells how many characters that are colored and outlined in a given piece of text. Well, now obviously I could use it from this guy. Let's move this guy back. And I'm going to put these inside of a navigation controller. And I'm going to actually add a button to the navigation controller's bar when this one's visible that will segue over to this guy. Okay, so let's do that. Let's put it in navigation controller first. Make more space here. So I'm just going to embed in navigation controller, right? Boom, puts it in. Okay, it got a bar. Notice that this one did not get a bar. Why? Because there's nothing that segues to this yet that's inside this navigation controller. Another bad thing happened, though. I lost my CS193P rocks. Okay, and we know that CS193P does rock, and so we do not want it blocked like that. So one thing you can do is if something gets blocked like this and you're like, oh, no, I got to go fix that, you can just delete the navigation controller and you'll be back where you were, or you could hit undo. So I'm actually going to get rid of this and put it in that gray bar instead. It's a perfectly reasonable place for it to go. Maybe I'll move this down a little bit too to make sure it fits on there. So now let's go back and select this again and embed it. Okay, so now we're back in here, right? And now I can put my CS193P rocks here. Okay, perfectly reasonable place to put it. And I've got this. Maybe I would line that up there or there. Depends on where the blue lines say. Okay, so I got that. Now I want to put a little button right here. So hopefully everyone remembers how to do that. We go all the way down to the bottom here. And we find bar button item, which is right here. And we drag it up. We put it right there. This is going to show the stats, so I'm going to call this stats, right? And now every time I click on stats, I want this MVC to slide in here and replace this one. So I'm going to control drag to here, okay? Inside of navigation control, it's always push. Okay, there's our segue right here. If we click on this segue and go to the attributes inspector, you can see that it's a push segue. And we're going to call this show stats, or even maybe better, analyze text. Okay, so we want to have something there that makes it clear what this segue does. It analyzes text in this case. Okay, now the last thing we need to do is prepare this MVC to come on screen, basically by setting its model to be the text that's in this text view, right? So we do that in here. The preparation for this to come on screen is done by this guy, because this guy's the guy causing the segue. So let's go here. As soon as we do this, we're on automatic, so we're going to see this guy's code. Here it is. Okay, hopefully you remember this code from last time. And let's go ahead and put the prepare for segue. We'll put it at the top because it works nicer for me. Prepare for segue. All right, and all we have to do inside this prepare for segue is prepare for this particular segue. It's the only segue we have. So I'm going to make more space here. Actually, let's scroll over so you can see the segue in your mind while we're working on this. Let's click this back again. There we go. Okay, so in prepare for segue, what do we do? Well, like I said, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we're talking about this particular segue, which is the analyze text one. Now, of course, if you mistype this here, you're not going to get any warning or anything like that, or if you mistype it over there, and it's just not going to work, because it's not going to prepare that MVC properly. So it's a little bit of a weakness, I think, of the way this system works, but it's just a debugging thing to make sure that your text here matches the text there. All right, so I know that when I'm segwaying here, I need to use this text stats view controller. Okay, so it's okay for me to import that MVC's class in here because it's part of my view, almost. So you can kind of think of it, the stats as being part of the view of this other one because it's a sub thing. So it's okay to do that, but I better make sure that the destination view controller that we're going to be segueing to is kind of text stats view controller. Okay, but if it is, then I'll create a little local variable here, text stat view controller equals text stat view controller. This is actually not necessary, what I'm doing right here, but I personally like to do it just because I like to have a local variable that I can do things like tsvc.text2analyze equals. Okay, so here I'm preparing it. Okay, what does it need? It needs my body text. Okay, remember from last time, this text view right here is self.body, and the text storage is the NS mutable attributed string. This is an NS attributed string, but it's okay to assign that because a mutable string is a regular attributed string. So this is perfectly legal. And so that's it. That's all that's necessary for us to do. And now if we run, you will see that first of all, we come up inside of a navigation controller. Okay, we still have our thing here. We can still select text. If we bring up the stats, there's 0 colorful characters. I didn't color anything. When I hit back, it just deallocated that text analyze. Let's go ahead and make a new one here, orange, and maybe some outline, and maybe some purple. And now stats, 14 colorful, 7 outlined. Okay, working like a charm. Maybe we'll make a whole bunch outlined here. Okay, stats, 250. Okay, so that's it. Everyone got that? So you will be doing this on your homework. In fact, you'll be taking this and putting it inside of a tab bar controller. So